International break over. The great city of Verdansk is back. Working break for Rabona TV as he took care of his life? Oh, well, that was over last week. I actually published 2 videos in case you missed them. You probably did, because YouTube's like that, you know? You take a little break, people won't see anything. But we are back! Everyone is back. Me, Plantini, not the neon light. He'll be back sometime soon. He's still carrying an injury from changing rooms, but he'll be back soon. What's up, guys? How are you? Happy to have you as we go through the Champions League quarterfinals, the final 8. All right, let's yap. Hey, editor Adrian here. Just a quick little announcement. Yes, the neon sign's still on the ground. We'll fix that. Don't you worry about it. Just wanted to let you know that live streams are coming back over on Big Up this month. We took last month off, but they're back as of tomorrow for the Merseyside derby, Liverpool versus Everton. It's a big one in the Premier League title race, so we'll take that one in. We'll take a look at some tape, some highlights while we're there. We'll do it all. Next week, we'll do Arsenal versus Real Madrid. You know, we're going to keep them week after week. The live streams will keep on coming over on Big Up, so join us over there. Join the community, and let's have some fun. All right, let's get to it. I like how I can sit comfortably in this new setup, but let's begin with Bayern versus Inter, the 2010 final matchup. And these two actually shared a group a couple of seasons ago, the season when Inter made it all the way to the final. In those 2 matches, Bayern actually defeated Inter 2-0 on both occasions, and across their history, Bayern has 5 wins to Inter's 3. It's the Benjamin Pavard derby. Both teams are leading their domestic leagues, and while Bayern's form took a hit for a couple of match days, which allowed Leverkusen to make up some ground, they still have a 6-point lead, while Inter will have quite the race on their hands against Conte's Napoli, who hasn't been in European competitions all season long. In the previous round, Bayern absolutely destroyed Bayer Leverkusen in a somewhat puzzling fashion, in my opinion. Remember, Leverkusen were unbeaten in 6 matches against Bayern going into that. 2 full years without a defeat against Bayern Munich. They completely smothered them in the Bundesliga prior to that, but couldn't find a winner, only for Bayern to torch Leverkusen 5-0 on aggregate. Some implosion from Leverkusen in the first leg helped their cause, as did Wirtz not featuring in the second leg, but Bayern were very much cool in that matchup. Inter Milan were also quite cool, and therefore won aggregate win over Feyenoord. Feyenoord gave them some issues in the second leg, but with Inter holding a 2-0 lead from the first, you never really saw a way back for Feyenoord, truly. And the big reason for this is that Inter have been so tight defensively in the Champions League. In Serie A, that's a bit of a different story, although they have been a little bit better. They've had touch and go moments. Jan Sommer, former Bayern dude, by the way, really bailed them out against Udinese this past weekend with a couple of huge saves in the second half to maintain that win. Very important for the title race in Italy. The attack, however, has been fine lately for Inter, as even without Lautaro Martinez, who is having another strong season, Inter were able to find goals from an in-form Arnautovic. He's a bit streaky, but an in-form Arnautovic is still a very dangerous player, and with the confidence he's playing with the work that Thuram puts in, even the form Thuram has shown recently, such as his goal against Feyenoord, Inter's attack is still a big threat. That left side especially is a big danger. Bastoni, DeMarco, and Mkhitaryan control matches well, and we all know how good Bastoni and DeMarco are with their service in behind and into the box, respectively. Speaking of defense and attack, let's talk Bayern, who recently won 3-2 against St. Pauli at home. And maybe it's a good time to talk here about injuries, as both sides have some injury issues. So let's start with Bayern's. Alphonso Davies. They lose Davies in what was probably a completely avoidable injury. Way to go, Canada. You've done it again. My God. My country's national team is embarrassing sometimes. But they also lost Dayot Upamecano for many weeks, and Hiroki Ito also picked up an injury after he came on as a sub against St. Pauli this weekend. The poor guy can't catch a break. Injury after injury since moving to Bayern. So in defense, there are certainly some personnel issues for Bayern Munich. Inter, for their part, I mean, the injuries aren't negligible for Inter either. They recently had to play against Udinese without Dumfries, Zielinski, and Lautaro Martinez, while Stefan de Vrij did make the bench, but Inzaghi confirmed that he also was injured. So, all of this considered says to me that Bayern are going to struggle defensively when they come up against Marcus Thuram and Lautaro Martinez, and that Bayern's left side of defense, despite Inter's stronger side being on the opposite flank, will also suffer a little bit, as Kim Min-jae and Guerrero are the likely starters on that side of the back four. Eric Dyer played all right this past weekend, but that back line would make me nervous as a Bayern supporter, and we'll see how Urbig handles the UCL pressure. Lots of belief in him, but this is a big step up against a big team. But with Olise in great form down Bayern's left, with Dumfries likely just getting back in time for the Bayern matchups, that could be a problem area for Inter as well. All said, with the missing people for Bayern and those likely returning soon for Inter, I think it's advantage Inter, and I see them going through in a tight matchup where the second leg at the Giuseppe Meazza will be the difference maker, with Inter pulling it off. Arsenal have a date with the big boys now. And no, I'm not talking about how the club is setting up a matchmaking service for their fans, how they are actually starting a dating show for single gooners. No, not that kind. But unbelievable stuff, man. Unbelievable. But anyway, after absolutely destroying PSV 9-3 on aggregate, this coming after a 7-1 win in Eindhoven, by the way, they now essentially have a completely opposite opponent in Real Madrid. They'll have a chance to perform at home in the first leg, where they have been quite good, but then the second leg will be at the Bernabeu. It's going to be tough going away in that second leg. I think one of the biggest things for Arsenal is the fact that they have Bukayo Saka returning. There was a time in the winter there with Saka out. They started losing other attackers as well, such as Martinelli, who has come back, Gabriel Jesus, Kai Havertz, and it all looked a bit flat for them. Also, they were dropping out of the cup competitions. The title race looked steeply out of their favor. It was looking a little bit dark, but they're still without Ricardo Calafiori as he got injured once again, this time on international duty. It could be weeks. They don't know at the time of recording this, at least. And Jurrien Timber was ill for a while, but the dude should be back soon. So Arsenal's bill of health is looking much better. The boost from Saka, just mentally for the squad, will be massive. Real Madrid, on the other hand, they got through via their shootout win over Atletico Madrid, which to this day is still being scrutinized and spoken about by Julian Alvarez and tons of people on the internet. There's no way to know how the rest of the shootout would have gone, of course, but undoubtedly a massive call was made there. One of the weirdest shootouts we've seen in a long time. Other than that, Real Madrid has won 2 matches in a row in La Liga, with Kylian Mbappe scoring 4 goals in that stretch, as his form is really becoming a problem for opposing defenses. Despite starting slow, he was still scoring goals for Real Madrid at the beginning of the season, and with his great form in 2025 in the latter half, he's already equaled the number of goals Cristiano Ronaldo scored in his debut season at Real. You see that goal he scored against Leganés this past weekend? Big debate as to whether that was his first direct free kick goal of his career. But regardless, what a hit. Apparently they'd been doing that in training, and he pulled it out. Rodrigo has been strong in the attack, but Vinicius has had some issues with his form since December. That said, he tends to show up when Real Madrid play against the English sides, as he has 10 assists and 7 goals in 20 appearances against English opposition in the Champions League. So we'll see if he can keep that good run going. The defensive side of things is where, there could be some worry for Real Madrid, though I'm sure Fede Valverde will start at right back, which will alleviate issues. The issue being if Vasquez starts. Asensio has been strong this season, Rudiger is always strong, and Fran Garcia has had some solid recent performances. I'm curious to see if he will actually start against Arsenal. Now, the last time that these two teams faced each other was way back in 2006, when Arsenal beat Real 1-0 on aggregate on their way to the Champions League final. And that was the only time they have played against each other in a competitive setting, right? Not on North American tours or whatever. Thierry Henry scoring the only goal between these two sides. Now, some will say that this would be a great audition for William Saliba, as those rumors won't go away. But beyond that unserious take, I see Real Madrid getting by Arsenal on this one. Yes, the return of Saka for Arsenal is great, but I don't know that that will be the silver bullet to their wobbly form. And with Mbappe really catching fire, with Real's attack looking strong, I think they'll take it. Arsenal's midfield will give Real Madrid a real test, that's for sure, but I still see Real Madrid getting through thanks to Mbappe. His record against English teams is 10 goals and 2 assists in 16 appearances. He'll improve on that against Arsenal. He's just a different beast right now with the way he's playing. Now, speaking of English opposition, PSG just overcame Liverpool in a very impressive 2-legged affair where the script was just wrong in that first leg. The kind of plot armor that Liverpool had to win that match, It's like when pretty much every big main character survived the Battle of Winterfell, right? And I know what you're thinking here. How did Adrian manage to insert yet another Game of Thrones reference into his Champions League coverage? And to be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know why it keeps happening. I haven't even watched it in ages. I guess it's just recessed into the deep, deep corners of my brain and will never leave. So I'll keep them coming. So that aside, Aston Villa cruised through their tie against Club Brugge, which went way easier than I really expected it to. I bought into the Club Brugge hype a bit, mainly down to the fact that they have been actually very, very good this season across all competitions. And the way that they dealt with Atalanta was impressive, but still, Villa with a 6-1 win over Club Brugge, as Marco Asensio has been in great form for them. Funny, he will now face his parent club. Imagine if he plays a big role in eliminating PSG. But PSG is a very, very different kettle of fish compared to Club Brugge. But there's no doubt about that. This version of PSG feels like Luis Enrique's magnum opus. They were able to cut down the age of the team drastically with their notable departures, which has allowed PSG to play in Enrique's vision, one of the most relentless pressing teams in Europe. I mean, you saw what they did to Liverpool, right? And despite not often playing with someone who is a traditional striker, the amount of venom they have in the attack is just ridiculous. Dembele is something else this season. Barcola is shining. Kvaratskhelia is back to something resembling his best. Desiree Doué is an unbelievable talent that is almost Neymar-esque on the ball, the way he moves with it. I mean, there's just so many weapons in their attack. Villa has signed a couple of boons to their attack as well, with the aforementioned Asensio as well as Marcus Rashford adding to their attack, as Ollie Watkins' form hasn't been as good in the last couple of months as it was prior this season, but Asensio and Rashford have picked up any slack. PSG is the biggest name that Villa have faced since Bayern Munich, or Juve as well, I guess, but Juve is streaky this season. I made a video on them recently, actually, if you want to see why they're streaky and why Mata was sacked. But PSG have shown that they cannot just be in the conversation to defeat anyone in Europe at the moment, but they can absolutely embarrass teams as well. I don't see Aston Villa getting embarrassed by PSG per se, but I have PSG winning this tie by at least 2 goals on aggregate, as their attack is just too much for Villa, while their midfield will be pretty dominant as well. And finally, we have Borussia Dortmund versus FC Barcelona. And look, last season, Borussia Dortmund's Champions League form existed outside of their Bundesliga form, which was poor from their own standards last season. Well, Borussia Dortmund's Champions League form this season has been good, while their Bundesliga form has been tragic. They are still in 10th, guys. A better showing this past weekend, but still in 10th in Germany, yet still in the Champions League as well, right? FC Barcelona, on the other hand, have been the best team in 2025, I'd say, and I don't think you'd argue with me there, right? They haven't lost a single game. In fact, they have dropped points just 3 times, meaning they have 17 wins and 3 draws in 2025 across all competitions. They've also won 9 matches in a row in La Liga for the first time since 2016. But they will have a very difficult schedule coming up, as they have Atletico Madrid in the Copa del Rey on Wednesday, tomorrow, then Real Betis this upcoming weekend, very good at the moment, then the Borussia Dortmund match, and at least things get easier from there domestically. Despite Robert Lewandowski still not getting a lot of celebrations across the board by football enjoyers, the guy has still scored 38 goals across all competitions for Barcelona. That's 38 goals in 42 appearances this season at 36 years old. He turns 37 in August, and he's still putting up numbers like that for a top team in Europe. It's insane. Video on him soon, I think. By the way, for club and country, he's already hit 40 goals this season. Wild. Now, goals in general for Barcelona are just flying in, as according to Opta, no La Liga side had managed to score 139 goals in just 45 matches before. So Borussia Dortmund's defense will be very busy. Sorry about the creaky chair. Now, with Niko Kovac coming in, that has served Borussia Dortmund's defense a bit better. He only recently played with a back 3 up against Mainz, which I thought he would do way sooner. So I would bet that he'll roll that out again this weekend in preparation for their matches against FC Barcelona. Try to shore things up a bit with a midfield duo ahead of the back line as well. Plug it up as much as possible. Their attack has seen Max Bayer start to find the net more regularly. He's beginning to deliver on his promise after his transfer this past summer, while Serhou Guirassy is still in fantastic form despite missing their recent match against Mainz. Don't know if it's anything serious, not a lot has been said. Now, speaking of that match, something unexpected happened. Nico Schlotterbeck has actually begun taking the corners, and he got 2 assists from his deliveries against Mainz. 2 assists from corners. Unbelievable, but something that still remains with Borussia Dortmund. even in their win over Mainz, are the mistakes in defense. Yes, Kovac has improved them, but mistakes remain, and it's difficult to see them keep the ball out of the net against Barcelona. You don't want to get into a shootout, not a literal shootout, but going goal for goal against Barcelona, right? Take it from me, a Benfica supporter. They will outscore you. So with the pressing of Barcelona coupled with, Lamine Yamal, the 17-year-old, apologies for saying he was 18 the other day. The dude has just been around forever that I don't know. These things happen. With him looking as world beatery as possible these days and scoring great goals, assisting Rafinha, who was a Ballon d'Or favorite, Lewandowski through the middle, who loves scoring against his former club, 20 in 27 matches against Dortmund, by the way. It's hard to see how Dortmund defeat Barcelona. In 5 matches against Barcelona, they've drawn 2 and lost 3, including losing to Barca this season at home. So Barcelona to go through. Plus, I didn't even talk about Barcelona's midfield, which is just incredible. So if my picks were in fact to be reality, which both you and I know I have never, not once in my life ever gotten a prediction wrong, then that would mean that the semifinals would be Real Madrid versus PSG, the Mbappe derby. I mean, we need to see that one, man. And on the other side, Barcelona versus Inter, 2 teams that built up some animosity semi-recently in the 22-23 season and played a thrilling 3-3 draw. That would be fantastic semifinals in my opinion. So everybody hope and pray that Adrian is right. Even if you support one of the teams that I think will lose, it's for the good of the earth. Do it for the galaxy, my friend. All right, that's it. Thanks as always for sitting through yet another Rabona TV Yap session. I appreciate you guys supporting the channel, and I will see you later this week for another video. Love ya.